everybody, this is Money Mom. Welcome back to the channel. It's Thursday night. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about how living in the 1970s was more frugal than it is today. Let's get started. As most of you know, I grew up in a suburb of St. Paul, Minnesota, called Woodbury. That's where I grew up most of my life. And I moved to Dallas, Texas in the late 1980s. So growing up in the 70s was more frugal, and I have 7 reasons why. I will first tell you that my mom stayed home. She was a hairdresser when she met my dad, and so she cut all of our hair at home. She stayed home with us. There were only 2 of us, and my dad was a truck driver. He was a teamster, and so he had good benefits. That's the one thing that was really great about the 1970s is many people back then had the good medical, dental, and vision, and also had a good pension plan and good benefits through their union, which I know nowadays is different. So these are the 7 ways that our family was more frugal than I would say nowadays. Number 1, we had 1 vehicle, and my dad paid cash for him. He bought them used, and he took care of the vehicle himself. So that's the one thing that I did notice about all of our neighbors is a lot of people were able to do a lot of work themselves and didn't have to hire out. Number 2, we ate at home. There were not as many restaurants. Mom cooked from scratch. There was always dinner on the table between 5 and 5:30. And, you know, a lot of people nowadays, they'll buy pop at the store. We had pop maybe twice a year for holidays. And I was allowed to have like 2 sips, like a little mini cup like that. It was a treat that we had that. It was extremely rare. So but because my dad's couple brothers worked at Ham's Brewery, we always had hams in the fridge. But we didn't have pop but just a couple times a year. Also, and also one other thing I want to add about eating at home, if we wanted a snack, we had to ask for it. And our portions were much smaller. We didn't go back for seconds and thirds, and you ate what was on your plate. And you know what, if you didn't like something, you ate it anyway. I don't know if any of you grew up like that, but Clean the Plate Club. And so we ate was pretty much put before us, but my mom was a great cook, so I loved almost everything anyway. But if you wanted a snack of some sort, an apple, anything, we had to ask permission before getting it. I don't know if any of you were like that, but that's how we grew up. And we didn't waste any food. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3, we did all of our own yard work. My mom was a hairdresser before, so she cut, styled, and did our hair. Oh my gosh, you should have seen my dad in the 1980s, the early 80s, when my mom gave my dad a perm. He looked like Mike Brady. Oh my gosh, it was hilarious. Okay, but it was funny. But my parents did a lot of their own, especially my dad, own repairs. And if they needed something painted, my dad would do it. My mom would help out. We did our own yard work, landscaping. We did everything ourselves. We didn't hire out. So that saved a lot of money right there. Number 4, this is the biggest thing. All the neighbors knew each other, and they would help each other. So if somebody next door, you know, needed help fixing their car, my dad would go over. My dad's good with cars. He'd go over there and help out. If my dad needed help with something, they'd come help my dad. Neighbors would help each other. One time my mom had to go out of town. The neighbors helped with babysitting my sister and I after school. So, you know, basically everybody helped each other and bartered with one another, and that really saved a lot of money. Number 5, we did order our clothes from Sears catalog. I don't know if any of you did that, and you're probably saying, well, how does that save money? But I remember we didn't have a lot of clothes. My mom would say, pick out 3 summer outfits. And we would get to pick out like 3 outfits each. And we only went clothing shopping a few times a year. We had a few pair of shoes, a few clothes, and we just took good care of what we had. Mom had an ironing day, and she just mended and took care of what we had so that it would last a long time. And that's where number 6 comes in. We didn't buy a lot, but whatever we bought was good quality, and it was made to last, and we took care of everything that we had. The other, number 7, is card games. We had a lot of card games and entertained a lot at home. And so people would come over, and we would play board games, card games. We'd have little gatherings. People would chip in and bring food, drink, beverage, you know, all that good stuff. And we would just entertain and do that at home. We would spend a number, and I'm going to add to number 8, we spent a lot of time outside. We would go bike riding a lot. I went bike riding. I went ice skating all the time. We did a lot of outdoor activities that didn't cost anything. You know, like I don't know if you remember your parents saying, go play outside. You know, and I don't know if anybody else said that, but, you know. The other thing is, you know, there's Starbucks nowadays. Well, guess what? There was Starbucks over at my mom's house at 2 o'clock every afternoon. All the ladies would come over and have coffee and sit around the table and talk and whatever, and people might bring cookies or something like that, and the ladies would talk about recipes or a soap opera because they'd maybe attached to a certain soap opera. So this is just kind of how I grew up in the 1970s. It was a more frugal time, and neighbors helped each other. That's the biggest thing I can tell you. We took good care of what we had, and everybody worked together to help one another. I'd love to know how you grew up and if it was more frugal than nowadays. I really appreciate you watching, and I love you a lot. Bye-bye.